All right, let me give you my Overreaction Monday take, sponsored by the rogueshop.com, okay?
Okay.
Gary Patterson working for the University of Texas is the fucking funniest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, jeez. You're going to get blocked. I'm hoping he unblocks me. And I don't know why he unblocked. Why I went to get on his page and I was like, why am I blocked? Like,
I'm not. Look, here's the thing.
I don't know why I'm blocked. Unblock me, Gary. I've been one of your biggest fans. I don't understand. Let's talk about it. Let's work it out.
We talk, but the sweat stuff aside.
Just one moment.
He's number 2 behind Lincoln Riley for coaches that we've gushed over the year. I mean, how many times did I call him Texas's daddy when he was pounding Texas?
How many times did you knew every Big 12 media day that I would go to that I'd have a Gary Patterson short about, hey, how do you do this from recruiting? And it was like in every year, I'd be like, how many 5 stars does it take to beat TCU? Like the
thing is about the sweating stuff.
Yeah.
I could be related to Gary.
Like, sweater?
Oh my God. Yeah. And if I was, let's say I was a Big 12 head coach, because those lights are bright, man. Like when you do a session, it's like your fries at a Burger King.
Yes.
Hey,
do you do the big man towel over your shoulder? No, you don't do the big man towel?
No.
Every big man who sweats has the big man towel. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Big man, they'll put that towel on there because they know this shit is I'm sweating today. It's the barbecue's out there. You don't do the big man towel?
I don't do the big man towel, but I do sweat a lot. And a lot of times it's not the kind of sweat that it's like my shirt's not getting drenched, but it's just always coming down my head.
Okay.
I got bald man sweat problems.
Gotcha.
And so it ain't making my shirt, I don't need the towel per se, because otherwise my clothes are going to get soaked. But it's in my eyes. I'm wiping. I head sweat a lot. I got no hair, it's just when you're active and there ain't no hair to absorb it all, it can just kind of run wild. So for all of the sweat stuff, who the hell am I in my glass house to throw us? I definitely over the years broke some stuff. No, it is hilarious that because I looked at Gary Patterson today. If you haven't seen it, one of the photos that O'Shawn Mathis posted from his visit was one of him and Gary Patterson. And they're both squatting down and doing a pose. And Gary Patterson has got they're both in very clean white Texas gear. And they look sharp. And I looked at Gary and I just thought to myself, that dude wants to keep working. That dude wants another job. That dude wants to be a head coach again. And that guy's willing to do whatever it takes at his age to get back on that horse. Because Gary Patterson could come from a place where he's like, no, man, I've been a head coach for 2 decades at a school, and I'm not going to do your preening and your posing. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm above that. But Gary Patterson wants to get back in the game. And the only way to get back in the game when you're a longtime coach that fizzles out at the end of the place where he's had a ton of success, you got to do what Mac Brown did. You have to look like you've been reborn again. And Gary Patterson at Texas, even though he's just in this kind of administrative role behind the scenes, I don't remember watching him at TCU do that. So to see him doing that on an unofficial visit for a prospect or a player who's looking at Texas, it will never stop being funny because that guy owned Texas, and that he could immediately be in a position where, if you can't beat them, you join them. If it's you beat them relentlessly and then you join them, it is a little bit like Kevin Durant joining the Warriors. Except if the Warriors were a 5-7 team, right? Because you're not supposed to join the team that beats you. But it never even crosses anybody's mind to join the team that, you know, can't beat you. Like, nope, nobody does that. Everybody stays. So it's just wild to me. And the photo is fantastic. And I hope he does that a lot. Because here's the thing. It's the biggest I got to do what I got to do kind of statement that I've ever seen. Because that is a dagger into the souls of TCU football fans who think of Gary Patterson as not just a Mount Rushmore piece of their football program. He might be like the first face on the Mount Rushmore.
Ketch, there's a freaking statue of him on the campus.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a statue. That is Mount Rushmore.
Imagine Vince Young taking a job at TCU.
And then put it like this, that horn. What is their thing called?
Their little frog thing.
Yeah, the frog thing. I don't know what it's called, but yeah.
Imagine. I haven't had to imagine watching Brian Carrington and Rashad Samples have moved to enough schools that the first time you saw Brian Carrington do this shush on a USC thing, it's like, oh, really? You're taking that with you? Like, and that's not Gary Patterson. So I know, like, that is on such a different level. And I just had a hard time holding back my glee. Because I love to poke the hornet's nest. And that is the biggest poke in the hornet's nest photo of the weekend by far. Both of them, Mathis and Patterson, two TCU guys. We're like, hey, we're all cleaned up in Texas gear. Let's do the hook 'em together. Put that on social media. That is some Jeff Ketchum shit if I ever heard it.
I think what this shows, Ketch, is that sometimes fans are taking this thing like way too seriously because
who like that? Quandre Diggs liked that.
Oh, I'm sure he will. He shared that photo with a bunch of people this weekend. It's trolling in many regards, right?
Can we have some fun with this? Like, it clearly is lighthearted. Right? At the end of the day, it's a good-natured poke at like the situation as a whole. But whew.
I mean, look, here's what Gary is doing. That's great. Talking about wanting to work again. A lot of times, head coaches don't love to have other head coaches as analysts because do they fall in line? Will they listen? Will they half-ass it just to get somewhere else? And I'm not saying that head coaches don't become analysts, but I'm just saying usually there's sometimes coaches are like, I don't know if this is going to be a good thing. And what Gary is showing is like, hell yeah, hook 'em. Like I'm totally down with UT. Like these are my boy. That's my boy right here. Oh, Sean, let's do a pose. You got it. Like everyone's gonna like this. And I mean, he squatted down to get that pose in, and Gary's he's down with UT. Like he acts like,
let's say Oklahoma. Let's say Mike Gundy took a job somewhere.
Okay,
and Oklahoma State is open, and Gary Patterson wants that job because I think that'd be a natural fit. Like it's in the Big 12. It's at a school that recruits like TCU. You know what I mean? Like you can make the case. And Oklahoma, well, you're kind of old, Gary. It's not fair to say that. But like anytime you get into your 50s, you get to be that guy that is like, can you hang with these college kids who Sark's doing Sark after dark and you got to be up at 11 o'clock at night on social media? Like you and I hate it. Like, and we're not there yet. So it's a fair question to ask what Gary Patterson is going to be able to do, because this is the second recruit situation in a row where Gary Patterson's been front and center on the social media game. Like, it's interesting that Kwiatkowski is nowhere to be seen on these junior days and when Mathis comes to town. But Gary Patterson is like, put me in, coach. And when he can put together like a slideshow of, look at me on social media. This is just me making a couple of $100,000 as an analyst. And I'm willing to get out there and do that social media thing. So it does have, I think, some positives from Patterson. But I think at the end of the year, he's going to be able to say, look how relevant I am. Look how important I am behind the scenes. Look how much guys gravitate towards me. And he'll have the social media like slideshow to prove it. And I don't know that I thought Gary Patterson would roll like that at Texas. I thought he's going to play some golf, Anwar. He's going to show up and do some analyst work. He's going to play some more golf. And like, I don't know that we're going to see him in front of the camera pimping out Texas gear left and right. And Gary Patterson is like, no, dog, you're talking about retirement life. And I want to get back into head coaching for the next decade life. I wouldn't look, TCU fans, don't hate the player, hate the game. You guys fired him in such a way. This is kind of what he has to do to get back on the bull again. And I can't begrudge a guy for doing what he's got to do to live the dream. And that's the dream.
I mean, the guy, you know, when he gets here, gets into a box with Del Conte and is hanging out like he's, you know, one of the boys.
He's kind of a pimp when you think about it. Like,
oh, he is a G. Like, he is a G on that first letter, that first initial. He's gangster. He is a real G because he's like, fuck it. I'm
in the 80s box.
He's like, I'm chilling. Like, I'm cool. What's good? What's good? Like, I got my hook'em stuff on. What you tripping about? He's the first person in the building. Like, so he's it's not like he's here to collect a check. He's actually working. Like, you know, that's what Sarkisian said. Like, he's always here. He's recruiting as well. Like, he hasn't taken this role with the thought or belief that, okay, you asked me to do A, B, and C. I will do A, B, and C, and that's it. He's like, A, B, and C, cool, I got that. I got that done at 9 o'clock. You don't got nothing else for me to do? All right, now I'll go do some other stuff, and I will work it. And Gary, you know, for me, Ketch, honestly, I never felt like TCU should have even parted ways with Gary Patterson. I thought that he was perfect for what they did. We'll see, you know, what Dykes does while he's there. I mean, you know, I've always thought highly of him. And, you know, when he gets another opportunity, I still think he'll be successful. He's had a great catch. I've said this before. He's in the ultimate win-win situation here at Texas. This defense does great. People are like, man, Gary Patterson, he came in, helped turn it around. If somehow this defense struggles, they're like, man, this defense really needs some Gary Patterson, to help him out. So you know, he's in the ultimate win.
We'll wrap this thing up. I'll just say,
I got one more thing, by the way.
Okay. I was going to say, the thing with Gary Patterson that Sarkisian has that he couldn't have, you just mentioned it, you couldn't have banked on Gary Patterson being so gung-ho towards doing the job, right? I mean, every coach on that roster, Sark can point to and say, hey, are you working as hard as Gary Patterson is today? Are you in as many photos with recruits as Gary Patterson is today? Were you here before Gary Patterson was here today? Like, Gary Patterson seems like a very motivated dude. And again, he knew taking those photos with O'Shawn Mathis like would cause a little bit of like burn. But you know what? He did it because it's what his employer needed him to do. It's what the job required. And then he went a little bit above and beyond because they could have not taken that photo. And Patterson was like, nah, man, I'm about me and I'm here now. And either I give you everything or I don't work here. And like, it's impressive stuff. And to me, it allows Sarkisian to go to coaches on his roster and bang them a little harder. Say, Gary Patterson's got years on you. He's here every day. He's, I think that there's a great people hire people. And, I think that's one of the things that I think you'd give Sarkisian credit for is that he seems to be interested in having like alpha type personalities in the building.
And Ketch, Sark wasn't in the pictures. And if Sark had,
that's what I'm saying.
If he had any insecurities, he would say, no, that's me in that picture, not, Gary Patterson, my analyst. And the fact that he's like, okay, yeah, he can get some of that credit. He gets some shine and whatever that says a lot about him.
No offense, but to me, if you're Pete Kwiatkowski, you better you got to get your Twitter game on, man. It can't look like the analyst is in charge, even if he is. And, one of the things about Kwiatkowski, he's just not as involved. I don't think if you put Kwiatkowski in a lineup for most Texas fans, they could pick Kwiatkowski out of a lineup. I don't think Texas fans need Gary Patterson to be on social media to close their eyes. And like, you could literally put Gary Patterson in a lineup full of guys that look exactly like him. And people are going to be like, know who the real Gary Patterson is. It's just an interesting contrast. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe the best thing about a really great staff is you can have these weird little things occur and it not even be an issue. But like you said, man, Gary Patterson's walked into a situation where he's undamned if he does and undamned if he doesn't.
All right, you want my last overreaction?
I do. Give me one more overreaction.
The last overreaction I had, it was a little blurb in my Sunday pulpit. Texas received a real recruiting gift with Rashad Samples leaving TCU and going to the LA Rams. And we won't make this long, but I think Ketch can speak to Samples and what he meant to recruiting in that DFW area. It almost was like he was the guy that you always had to reckon with if you were going to recruit guys. Ketch, there was a time where I think Texas was almost shut out of DFW and had to kind of, rebuild some of those relationships. I can't remember if it was in Charlie's tenure or Tom's tenure, but there was some struggle, like how you get the kids from Duncanville, like how do you get some of those guys? And so his decision to leave TCU after being on the job for a few months and go to the Rams, I think is a hell of a gift for Texas fans. And I think some people say, it's just TCU. Like Rashad was recruiting at a high level when he was at SMU and bringing in guys like Texas wanted. Like they wasn't necessarily just the crumbs. It's some guys that Texas actually wanted. So that my last overreaction Ketch is, if you're a Texas fan, you go and help Rashad pack. You point out all the great spots in LA and you go, whew, because that's one less recruiting headache you have to worry about.
Rashad Samples will be a college head coach in less than 5 years. He is going to go put a couple of years into the NFL, put it on his resume, coached in the NFL, coached with the Rams in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Oh, he ain't going to Carolina to work under Matt Rule. He's got hired by the defending world champions. In 2 years, he'll hand cherry pick a coordinator position. And in 2 years after that, he'll be a college head coach, like not just an entry level job either. He'll have that guy's going to be a major factor in college football for the next 30 years. And the only thing that will keep that from happening is that if he goes to the NFL and he turns into an NFL coach, that he, as great as he is as a recruiter, he's a legacy guy from one of the best coaches in the history of high school football in the state of Texas. And it could just be, while everybody's been paying attention to the coaching stuff or the recruiting stuff, that he's an actual football savant as well. And if he's that, then he'll get a coordinator job in the NFL. And like, you're talking about a guy that with his trajectory right now, he's going to be a head coach somewhere. To me, I've seen so many college coaches with his profile do what he's doing and do it for a couple of years just to put it on the resume. so that they can then get the big job that they want. I kind of think that's what he's doing, but I may be underrating him in saying and only saying he's going to be a factor in college football for the next 30 years and a head coach in less than 5. I might be underrating Rashad Samples. That guy, he's like one of these 5-star guys. As long as he doesn't screw it up, right? Like as long as Rashad just keeps his head down and does the coaching thing and doesn't have like some weird thing happen, I mean, that guy is on his way. And, you know, we'll all be able to look back and say when that guy's being really successful somewhere, oh, we were there when it started off the field at Texas. And we'll have this really unique story about how Texas couldn't quite hold on to him. And boy, there were some questions and that could be talked about with that decision a couple of years later. Then he goes to SMU, then he goes to TCU, and now he's in the NFL. I mean, that little couple of years story as he kind of finds liftoff in his coaching career, I think will be something that 20 years from now, everybody who was there when it happened, wherever he is, will be talking about, well, you know, he was at Texas and was kicking ass and recruiting as like some assistant off the field who couldn't even do this. And I will be doing that. I think that he's the most obvious young college superstar, future head coach of anybody in the country that we can point to. I can't think of anybody else that I'm quite as certain in 5 years everybody's going to want him.
Oh, perfect. All right. That's all I had, Ketch.
I am saving one for tomorrow.
Okay.
So, you know, I have our Tuesday topic ready to go. And it's good. It's a good one.
Okay, don't overcook it now.
That's why I didn't use it today. I was like, you know what? It'll be its own video tomorrow. If you like this one, you hung in, you watched part 1, part 2, because I'm sure they chopped this up. Thank you for watching. Do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel. What are we at right now? Hold on. I got, because I always, 11,184 as of this very second. I always have my eye on the counter. Subscribe to the channel. Help us out. For the rogueshop.com, get them gummies. They will help you sleep. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Anwar Richardson. We'll do it again tomorrow. You guys be good to each other. Later.